So hey guys, it's Wood Heat Wednesday. Let's talk about some different places you can get some relatively cheap or free firewood. So I think right off the bat, Craigslist, fantastic resource, very accessible to a lot of different people, especially after storm season. A lot of people throw up ads saying, hey, I got a tree that went down the storm. Anyone looking for some free firewood, come out and cut it. You know, they might have a chainsaw. They might not be in the best physical condition to deal with this. Maybe they just want to have use for that wood and they just want to get it out of there. So a great resource for that. I think communication is really a key thing when it comes time to deal with a lot of this stuff though. Sometimes there's not pictures posted, you show up at the job and there's just a little pile of brush there, just not really worth your time. Other times you get people that are expecting a miracle. They got some tree that's leaning back over the house or rubbing up on the house, and it would make even the most experienced tree cutter a little nervous about taking that thing down. So kind of do a lot of communicating, get an idea on what you're getting into. Not only just searching through the ads as well, but putting a want ad out there as well. A lot of times I've had a lot of great success for that. People might have a tree down, didn't even really think that much of it, that maybe someone else would want it. You throw a want ad up saying, hey, you know, we heat with wood, you got some downed trees after this last storm, get in contact with me. And a lot of times people will be more than happy to get something like that out of there, especially if it can get put to some good use and help out another family. So another great source out there is GetChipsDrop.com. It's a site that's really geared towards wood chips. It kind of connects both the tree cutter and the end user sort of together. You basically go on there, you set up a profile, and you specify what you're looking for. You're looking for just wood chips, or you're looking for wood chips and logs, and you can kind of get in there and specify some of that stuff, and then what type of tree species you're willing to take or not willing to take. You plug in your address, your phone number, and then it's sort of this communication back and forth. You can also leave a tip on there to help incentivize them, or maybe get you bumped up the list a little bit, a little better chance of them showing up at your doorstep. And it's sort of a win-win situation. You can potentially get wood chips and firewood out of the deal, and the tree services a lot of times can get rid of some different material as well. Not all places, but a lot of them are limited on the amount of space that they have to store this wood, or maybe they don't have the time to process some of this wood. There are some tree service companies that do sell that stuff in the off season, but there are some that just can't. And this gives them a way and a place to go put this wood to good use, and also helps save them a cost of going to the dump to get rid of it. Speaking of tree services, that's another place. Really recommend getting in contact with them. If you can get a face-to-face conversation with them, even just picking up the phone is a lot better than just blasting out an email. It sort of puts a face to who they're potentially going to drop wood off at, just letting them know you could take wood at such and such time, or this location, dump it here. And it's sort of a win-win situation in that same regards as well. Sometimes you can see them working on the side of the road. You can stop and ask and see what they're going to do with that wood. If you're relatively close, you can say, hey, I just live right up the road, and they could potentially drop stuff off. Another thing is they would really love it. You help lighten up their workload. If you're willing to start carrying some of those logs out and loading up your truck, it shortens their time out there. Plus, a lot of times they'll help carry the wood out there as well, so you end up getting a full truckload relatively quickly. I would recommend kind of throwing some sort of kickback towards them, whether it's a few bucks, maybe a case of beer, something, just to kind of get them to remember you. They could be working back out in your area somewhere down the road and be like, hey, I remember last time this person over here really was interested in this. Let's stop and see if they would be willing to take it before we go continue to drive off to the dump or wherever they're headed. Word of mouth is another really good thing. There's been many times I've just gotten in conversations with people, hey, what'd you do over the weekend or something? Oh, I was out cutting firewood. Just kind of casually bringing stuff up like that and letting more people know you heat with wood. There's been so many times I've gotten contacted by people, hey, we just had a storm come through, tree went down, you got any interest in it? Or we're having this tree removed, you want to drag this out here. There was one time I even had someone that was looking to get rid of a tree. They had heard that I cut wood, loaded up their truck, brought it to where my truck was parked at the time, and loaded things up. I didn't even have to touch the wood until I got home. It was a pretty nice little deal. So just word of mouth. Try to get it out there. Let people know you heat with wood. I'm amazed at how often opportunities land on my doorstep because of just other people knowing that we use firewood. Another great resource is sawmills. We used to have one not too far from us, but that ended up closing down, so it's a resource that we don't have near us, but I've heard a lot of people have great success with this. Sometimes you just get end cuts. A lot of times the wood's already pretty dry. Sometimes they'll give it to you for free, sometimes they'll charge you. I've heard of guys getting like a whole truckload of wood for $5 or $25 or something relatively cheap. And a lot of times it's some nice, good, hard, beautiful wood as well. So another really fantastic resource is your state and your county. A lot of times you can go get a wood cutting permit. They're relatively inexpensive. Sometimes they have some stipulations on maybe the quantity or some rules that you have to follow. There was one year I did it. Their stipulation was like I could cut up to 5 cords. If there was any elm trees, I had to remove the bark, which is just good practice. You know, they're trying to prevent the spread of any Dutch elm disease. And I think the permit cost me $15 or $25 or something like that. And 5 cords, I mean, that puts a huge dent in the amount of wood that we burn for winter. And here I was paying for a heating source and was heating our house the entire winter for relatively cheap. So take a look at your local county or state. So one other thing I really like to do is carry around some generic notes inside my truck. That way I'm traveling from place to place and I notice a tree down or something, I can easily stick this inside their newspaper box or maybe in the front door. Just a note basically saying, hey, I know she had a tree go down, my family heats with firewood, I'd love to take that off your hands if you have any interest. Here's my contact information. I'll tell you what, I'll put a link in the description below of just kind of a generic note there that I use. Just in case you're looking for something like that. But it works out pretty well, especially if they're not home or something. It still gives you the ability to leave something behind so they can have the potential of reaching out to you. And plus it's not really a high pressure situation where they don't have to say yes or no, and a lot of times they're a little bit more likely to say no when it doesn't kind of have that car salesman sales pitch type thing to it as well. Another thing is just going and talking to people. Sometimes you can work out deals. Maybe you have something and you guys can kind of trade services. We have one neighbor that lets me go out and cut on a particular wood lot anytime I want, take whatever down trees, and then in exchange I got to go over and help him stack his wood. So really not a bad deal. I don't mind doing that type of stuff. But you know, it doesn't have to be even physical or something. Maybe you got a tractor and that person needs a little bit of help with getting their garden tilled up in the spring or something. You can trade services, or even just stopping and talking. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of times those trees just end up rotting to the ground and you talk to them. Don't get offended if someone's a little uncomfortable. There's not like laws like we're hunting where the landowner is protected. So, you know, you got someone going out there with a chainsaw, you know, there is a little bit of a risk involved in something like that. So don't be offended if they turn you down. But there's no, nothing lost, I guess, for making an attempt at going out and reaching out to someone. And who knows, you could build a pretty good friendship and kind of strengthen that community in your area. So one last little idea here. Maybe not so much around firewood, but around kindling. If you work for a company that's got a warehouse, a lot of times the inventory sits on wooden pallets, and the pallets kind of get beat up a little bit as they get moved around with forklifts and pallet jacks. And a lot of times these little perfect kindling sized pieces break off. Really nice and dry, ready to go up. No splitting needed at all. Maybe you have to shorten them a little bit or something. But a great little resource. So you could potentially offer up and say, hey, I'd be willing to walk through the warehouse and pick up this stuff. I could use it. You're saving the warehouse guys a little bit of trouble, so it's not getting stuck under like the wheels of the forklift or something kind of skidding along. Might make a happy crew there. Another option too is just talk to the guys. Maybe as they're sweeping up at the end of the day or something, they'd be willing to set that stuff aside for you, and you got a fantastic supply of kindling. So one last little note: try to transport firewood as little as possible, shortest distance, I should say. There's a lot of different diseases and pests that can go along. You don't want that spreading to your trees. You don't want to, you know, increase the speed of it getting introduced, or introduce something to an area that doesn't have it. Pay attention to some laws. There's definitely some rules and regulations. Like certain counties sometimes get quarantined. You can't transport any firewood going out of there. I know there's some areas like that down in the city. You can't bring the wood out of that county at all. So pay attention to that stuff and help reduce the spread of some of these diseases. So what do you guys think of the list? Did I miss something? If you got some other great ideas, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.